Hey guys, so since our build video is taking longer than we expected, we thought we should put out something this week, so this is our first tip video.
Yeah, so everyone knows right now that the new big phase is all this DIY furniture. There's lots of free plans online. There's lots of people getting into woodworking, which is awesome. And the big rave and also the big debate is pocket holes. I'm not going to get into the specifics of why or why not they are good or in what scenarios they are. But this is more for the people who are DIYers. This is not people who are going to be making fine furniture for a living. You know, we do some lower end pieces in our shop, and when we do that, it's cost effective for us to use pocket holes. So with that said, I want to go over a little bit about wood movement, just general knowledge about it. A lot of people hear it on all these forums and they're getting negative feedback about how you can't use pocket holes because of wood movement, specifically in tabletops. But this is all you need to know if you're just getting into woodworking. If this interests you, go online. There's endless amounts of information that tells you about all the different specifics on it, and you know, there's a bunch of variables. But just as a general knowledge, if this is the length of the board, so this board may be 8 feet long this way, so this is with the grain runs in this direction, the wood is not going to move very much in this direction. But against the grain, going the width of the board, starting in the center and going out each direction, the wood actually moves a fair amount, depending on, like I said, several variables, how dry your lumber is, location, yada yada yada. But so that's what a lot of these people you hear talking about wood movement, how you can't use pocket holes, the reason why they say that. So I'm gonna give you all a couple quick little tips that's not gonna completely solve the issue, and it's not gonna be you know, a foolproof version of a solution. There's much better ways to do this, but this will give you a little advantage and will hopefully make your projects last even longer. And I just want to say that we encourage everyone to get into woodworking. So, you know, even if your project is not heirloom quality, that doesn't mean your project sucks. Just because your project may have, you know, a deformity somewhere. Oh, that's Bailey in the background. That's our dog. But I don't know what she's doing. She's eating a piece of wood or something. But you know, like I said, it doesn't have to be heirloom quality. Most of the time, these projects are a little bit rustic anyway. So, you know, wood movement is not as big of an issue. So without further ado, let's get into this and I'll show you all a little bit more of the specifics.
Seriously?
Alright, so this is the tabletop we've been referring to. It's for a coffee table we're building. So just for a little terminology, this is what most people refer to as a breadboard end of a table. It's the piece that runs horizontally. So the big issue a lot of people have that you're hearing about all over the internet with pocket holes is how when they're attached to this breadboard, it doesn't allow this panel to move, which is completely true. So like we referred to earlier, you know, wood moves, so as this board moves, it pushes this board, which then multiplies as it goes down the boards, which means that by the time it gets to here, and your screw, you know, originally was placed here, it's actually getting forced this way, which can either cause the screw to fail, or if the screw is stronger than the joint in whatever case that might be, then the board itself may split or it may cup. Now this is a much bigger issue. The more boards you have, the more movement you have, the more it's multiplied. But here are 2 tips that can help alleviate that to a degree. This is not a permanent, this is not something that's going to for sure fix it. This is something that's going to help. This is something that will allow you to get out in the shop and allow you, or garage or whatever it may be, allow you to get out there and just build something and not have to worry about, you know, all the craziness, minute details. Anyway, so there's two things I like to do. The first off is I like to put my screws closer together. A lot of people like to put their screws further out here. I like to just use the two outside holes on my jig, and I like to put them in the center. And the reason for that is that wood moves from the center. So the further away this hole is from the center, the more pressure is going to be on that screw. And when I'm saying that, I'm referring to it as in this one individual board. Obviously, like I said before, as it gets further down, it's still going to move your screws. So to help with that portion of it, I like to take a drill bit that is bigger than the shaft of the screw, but isn't so big that the head of the screw can pass straight through. And what I like to do before I put my panel together, after I drill my pocket holes, I'll go back in those pocket holes and I'll just drill out the center hole with this bigger bit. Now what that allows for is just a little bit of movement, and it's obviously not a lot, but that little bit can make all the difference. It can help a bunch. Like I said before, this is not a permanent fix. Now also another thing, this is kind of a third tip, but it's the same principle as what we just talked about. When you attach your table top to your actual table, you also have to account for the movement that's going to happen between all of these boards. Along the length of these boards, this way, there is not a lot of movement. So it's not as critical. But a lot of people will just pocket hole their tabletop to the frame of their piece. And from what I've seen and what I've experienced from that, it's not going to tear your top apart, depending on how heavy your base is. But what it's going to do is it's actually going to twist or distort whatever it is that that's underneath it. So in our instance, the coffee table, one leg of the coffee table may not sit on the ground correctly as these boards move. So again, you can just drill out that hole slightly bigger and put your pocket hole in. Another thing that I like to do, which is actually, in my opinion, a simpler way, is just run a second strip across your apron. The boards that connect your legs, say on a table, on a farmhouse table, the board that runs the length between the legs. Put you an extra strip on the inside and drill a large hole through it, and you can then put a screw and washer on that hole, and that screw has plenty of movement. I'll show an example of that, and I'll get back with you in just a second. Okay, so here's what I was referring to earlier. So if this is the apron of your table, and you have your table legs here, this is obviously a miniaturized version, but you can take a secondary strip, you can glue and screw that board into the other one, and then you can periodically drill, say, a 1/2 inch hole through that board, maybe every 16 inches or maybe a little less than that. And then what you can do is you can take a screw and washer, and you can do your best to center the screw in that hole and then screw into your tabletop. And so what that allows you to do, if this is your tabletop up here, allows that tabletop to move back and forth. And there's thousands of ways you can attach tabletops. The same ways, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but that is a pretty simple way to do it, and it's a great way to do it, especially on smaller projects where there's not going to be as much movement. Alright guys, I hope these tips helped you out in any way. I'm really not looking for the true woodworkers to jump on me in the comments. If you want to, I'm not going to answer back to those. I realize what wood moisture and movement, or moisture and wood movement is. I understand the ins and outs of that. But this is for the people who are just trying to get out and make something, maybe even for the first time, and are being pushed away from these people, saying that this is, the exact way you have to do it. Anyway, I hope this helped y'all and helps y'all make something. If you do make something and use any of these techniques, or if you just make something, send it to us. I'd love to see what it is you came up with. Thanks, guys.